So you guys know the deck Pac-Man? Well, yeah, that deck kind of is good now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So I love Yu-Gi-Oh lore. I love Pac-Man. The idea of this deck that is so unassuming, but then like over the course of the game, it just turns into this advantage monster. I thought the only way to do it was the way that everyone else did. You know, floodgates. You floodgate your opponent, but it turns out you don't need to use any floodgates at all. Okay, maybe there's some in the side deck, but come on. The more I play decks like Winged Rhinos, the more I realize that a good advantage engine is so hard to come by in Edison format unless you are exactly Black Worldman. And every single Pac-Man card has the potential to create insane advantage. One Deslocuta can be 10 cards if it's unanswered. It's untapped advantage within this really weak, unassuming monster, which is why I think they're all like bugs. But why is Deslocuta a camel? I don't know. And so I turned over every single stone in the Edison format card pool, and I discovered some of the weirdest synergies you guys have ever heard of. I don't know how people weren't playing Pac-Man like this, but this deck feels unfair. It feels unbelievably broken, and I am so excited to share it with you all today. There is only one major problem with the deck. It is impossible to finish a match in the time limit. That is this deck's kryptonite. Its core weakness is it does not function within the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! Behold my Pac-Man deck profile, and God, look at all those weird cards. First of all, Needle Sealing. Why are people not playing Needle Sealing in Pac-Man? This is the best card in the entire deck. A chainable Torrential Tribute that all it needs is 4 monsters on the field, but I mean, guess what? It only pops face-up monsters. All your monsters are going to set themselves at the end of your turn. So if your opponent does anything, you can essentially just interrupt their plays, pop their entire field. And you're probably thinking, oh, well, how are you going to get it so you have at least maybe 2 monsters on the field? And that's where the continuous trap engine comes in. I have been messing around with Limit Reverse Magic Planter for too long. And the whole idea is if you can get advantage of the monster you bring back with Limit Reverse and advantage out of the card Limit Reverse, you are essentially getting a 2-for-1. All the Pac-Man cards have less than 1,000 attack. They are all Limit Reverse targets. And guess what? When you set them face down, that Limit Reverse just stays floating on the field. It's like if you book a moon something you bring back with it. And you can do like such stupid stuff. You can use Limit Reverse in the end phase of your opponent's turn, bring back a Swarm of Scarabs, and then on your turn you use its effect to flip it back down. You have not summoned it that turn, so you can just instantly get a pop. So Limit Reverse just gives the deck like speed. Like you can use your Pac-Man effects proactively instead of having to wait a turn, and it just gives the deck this crazy grind potential, let alone Magic Planter just getting you pot of grades every time you do this interaction. It also helps Needle Sealing. Did I mention it helps Needle Sealing? Speaking of continuous trap cards, Fiendish Chain is unbelievable in this deck list. First of all, it is a continuous trap that you can send with Magic Planter, but you can also get value out of it first. First of all, it negates effects, it stops Black Rose, which is quite a good card, but also it stops attacks. Because your cards like Swarm of Scarabs can pop a monster every single turn, you don't need to worry about removal as much. All you need to worry about is stopping those attacks and those effects. So then on your turn, you just Magic Planter, Pot of Greed, flip the Swarm of Scarabs, pop the Black Rose or wherever, and then just, yeah. And that's the thing about this deck, is like the one Fiendish Chain serves like 3 purposes, which is so cool. And that brings us to the next best card, which is Scrap Iron Scarecrow. Why is nobody playing this in Pac-Man? This card is made for Pac-Man. If you set up a Pac-Man monster with a Scrap Iron Scarecrow, you can rely on your monsters to do the heavy lifting, and then the Scrap Iron Scarecrow to protect your monsters every single turn. And then, why are people not doing this? Imagine if a Scrap Iron Scarecrow negates like 6 attacks. It's like, why does every single card in this entire deck get so much advantage? Your Needle Ceilings can be like a 1-for-4. All your monsters can be 1 card for like 10 cards. Everything else is like a 1-for-2. This deck is unbelievable. The only problem is you just have no attack. Let's watch this deck take like 10 hours to finish a game.
I am away from home, so please forgive my setup. Look at this opening hand. It is not looking that good, and we get MST'd on our D Prison, and now our Swarm of Scarabs is not going to get much value. And then they just Whirlwind Sirocco us, so things are really not looking good. How are we going to win this game? So they're just going to attack over our monster, and we draw a Magic Planter, which is not too bad. We just set it all, and then our opponent goes to the battle phase. They clear our Golem Sentry, and then they are just going to set a back row and pass their turn, and in the end phase we can bring back both of our monsters. I think we do lose to Icarus attack, but they probably won't shotgun it, which is really important actually, because when we draw for turn, we draw a Mirror Force, we can set this monster, and now this Limit Reverse is just floating. Even if they destroy the monster, this will stay on the field, which is very relevant for the Magic Planter. So we're just going to set both of our monsters. We then flip up the Swarm of Scarabs targeting the Sirocco. It works. We then Magic Planter and draw 2, and now we are in a pretty good spot. We attack for 500, and now we just pass our turn. Unfortunately, we cannot flip this back down, I don't think. Oh my god, can you? I mean, it's a soft once per turn. Can you flip this? Really? There's no way. There's no way that's how that works. Okay. Wow, I cannot believe I didn't know that. Okay, the deck is even crazier. That's fine. They're going to normal summon a Shura because, of course, they have Shura. They're then going to use the Black Whirlwind. Just kidding. We are going to activate Needle Sealing. And this would have been even crazier if this was face down. But just using Needle Sealing as like a 1-for-1 removal is so powerful. This stops the Whirlwind Search, and it just could potentially clear all of their monsters, but I think they do Solemn Judgment this. Yeah, so that's a lot of damage. They then summon out 2 Boras. They Colute over one of them, and then they attack into this Golem Sentry. They take 100, and then they do get to resolve this Sirocco to get out the Gale, and then they are just going to half our monster, set it back around past their turn. This is actually an interesting spot because I believe this is mandatory, and I don't want to give them another card to use this Whirlwind with, so I don't really want to flip up this Golem Sentry. So I decide to just normal summon the Medusa Worm and attack over the Gale, and then we're going to put that Medusa Worm face down, and then we do this, and then we just pass our turn. They do have the Blizzard in hand, so that's fine. They get back the Colute, so they are just going to Synchro into an Android. They go to the battle phase. We get a huge Mirror Force. 1 for 4 is unbelievable, and now things are looking up. We've survived the Whirlwind Onslaught. And look at that, a Magic Planter off the top. Are you kidding me? It's just Pot of Greed, because that card was not attached to anything. So we get no value out of these, but it doesn't matter. These just can poke in every turn and then go right back down. So the only thing this is really bad into is Mirror Force, and they do not have it. It's just a bottomless. Oh, great card. Great card against this deck. God, we just set it all in pass. They set the value. We're going to flip up this Medusa Worm, and they do activate the Icarus attack. That is quite strong, and we have nothing we can do to stop that, so they're just going to pop both of our monsters. That is fine, and then we're just going to get in for 500, set this MST, and then pass our turn. They rip the Sirocco, and we are going to MST the Whirlwind, so they cannot start their chain over again. And then they go into the battle phase, and we do have this D Prison to banish their monster. We just flip up the Medusa Worm and normal summon the Swarm of Scarabs. I love that you can like normal summon, get in, and then flip them main phase 2. Also, this is like the best card in our deck because it has 1,000 attack. And then we are just going to set these both and then pass our turn. They summon a Shura off the top, but this chain is going to chain it up. And then we just flip and pop the monsters, and it doesn't matter. This hand looks really good. We do play 2 Starlight Roads. Unfortunately, we do not have them, so we can't really play around heavy. They just passed? Oh yeah, I guess they did. They just passed. Okay, they do have the Noblemans, but it's quite nice that like these aren't flip monsters, so it only banishes 1. But now we need to draw a monster. They draw this Bora, then we just take that damage. They set another back row. We finally draw the Golem Sentry, and then they're going to attack us with the Shura. Unfortunately, they cannot get through for them. That's fortunate for us. They then set another back row and pass. We draw this Swarm of Locusts, which is quite good. We're then going to set this monster, set another monster and pass, and then look at how much value this can be. If They did not have the Solemn. It's such an unbelievable card. So yeah, they do have the Solemn, which is quite bad for us. They can attack into our monster. We can chain up the Shura, and they do have the Icarus attack. They'll take out both of our back rows. We do have an MST, but things are not looking great. They're about to clear all of our monsters. They're also going to brain control on Synchro into an Armed Wing main phase 2, and things are not looking great, but this Magic Planter off the top goes quite hard. We get a Pot of Greed for no reason, draw into some monsters, set a couple, and pass, and then we are going to activate this Fiendish Chain, but unfortunately, they have the deck Devi, and why does this also do face down monsters? I do not understand. This card was already broken enough, but like, we would be in such a good spot if it didn't kill the face down, but God, I hate that card so much. So they rip our entire field, but because the deck Devi tributed the Armed Wing, this Fiendish Chain is still on the field, and so hopefully we can get out of it with this Pot of Greed next turn. We draw a Starlight Road, which is not great. We're going to Pot of Greed, we send the Chain, and we draw two, just kidding, we draw Medusa Worm, which is not great, but at least we can stabilize a little bit. They summon the Value, we take the 800, and then we will deprison the Bora. That is fine. We draw a Judgment, which is not great, so we have Solemn Starlight, not in a great spot. We kind of need a monster. Okay, we draw the Needle Ceiling. We set that in pass. They get in for another 800, and then they just collude for game. So nothing we can do in game number 2. This hand looks unbelievable. We're going to set these cards and pass our turn. My opponent normal summons the Bora, and we're just going to scrap Iron Scarecrow. We set a couple of cards and pass. I think we were trying to bait out the Icarus on the 2 new sets. That's why I didn't flip this up. And they didn't end up having Icarus, but I thought I was playing around it because I would rather keep the monsters. I don't know what I was trying to do. And then they are just going to normal summon this Kalute. By the way, they have Whirlwind again. Just kidding. We can activate this Needle Ceiling. That's crazy. And now we just can take over the game, basically. We don't have any monsters to really flip, and I'm scared of Mirror Force, so I'm not flipping these monsters. I'm thinking that we just need to, like, completely take over the game to win. So we activate this Ultimate Offering and then send it off of the Magic Planter. We are able to draw 2 cards, a Deslicuda and a Fiendish Chain. We get in for 500, and then we just set a couple of cards and pass. They set the Value. We snapped the new one because I thought it was the Icarus attack based on the way they were playing, but I don't think they had one set. Yeah, they did not have an Icarus attack set. I also sided into Twister, hilariously. You probably shouldn't play Twister. I think I replaced this with my body to play around deck Devi, so we're then going to flip up this Medusa Worm, pop the Value, flip up this Eslicuda in order to draw a card, and then we decide to attack in for 1000 damage. We set a couple of cards and pass. In normal summon the Value, we can just scrap Iron again. We flip up the Medusa Worm, pop that Deslicuda, draw another card, and God, the game is just so over. They deprison the Deslicuda, we get in for 1000, set another monster, and then we just pass our turn. Like, the advantage is unbelievable at this point, and they see the writing on the wall. There's just nothing they can do. And yeah, that's how you beat Whirlwind 2 games out of 3. Not bad.
So I have not yet lost a match with this deck. Did I mention those were rated games? I feel like when my channel started out, I was so focused on discovering broken things about the game. Burn loops, crazy OTKs. I tried to play as little Yu-Gi-Oh! As possible. And then as the channel developed, I think I actually started to enjoy playing the game. So I became much more interested in these advantage engines and these resource loops. I mean, Rhinos and Sasuke are like my favorite decks in the entire game, and it is legitimately impossible for them to win before turn 10. They are grindy decks. And I think the reason why I've gravitated towards these grindy resource decks is because they highlight what makes Edison format so fundamentally different from modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's a thing that I find so cool as a deck builder. It's the fact that you can see the majority of your deck throughout the course of a game. In modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It's all about that opening hand, baby. That's all that matters. But in Edison format, especially in a grindy, resource-intensive deck, that unsearchable one-of that you put in your deck could be the reason you win or lose. And that's like what this style of deck building is best at. It's so interesting to think like, okay, what are the ratios? What do I want to open in my opening hand? And then you just do that geometric calculator and you're done. No, this type of deck building, you're like, okay, it's turn 30. What do I need? What is happening? And that is so unbelievably cool. Speaking of the long game, this deck has a lot of problems. The most glaring problem is it's incapable of finishing a game in the time limit. It reminds me a lot of that Joshua Smith deck, the Paleo deck, where it's like, its win condition is out there. It's just like so far away. It's like a shining light on the horizon. You're like, oh yeah, I think I see it out there, but God, it's gonna be a long grind fest to get there. The other problem is you literally need to control every aspect of the game to win. You cannot be getting in chip damage. You need to take over. You need to have like 10 cards and your opponent needs to have like 2 cards. That is the only way you win with this deck. So it's kind of demoralizing to your opponent, and it's a certain type of person has to want to pilot that type of deck where it's just complete dominance, but it is a good feeling to get incremental advantage that builds throughout the course of 10, 20 turns. The other major problem is deck devastation virus, but I like that maybe the limit reverse and these revive traps can get you back into the game. Overall, I think this deck is competitive. I'm going to put it in the competitive tier of the tier list. It plays so many weird cards, so many strange jank synergies that I think that it's the culmination of this entire channel, and this would not be possible without putting in the effort in the dinosaur deck, without putting in the effort with the rhino stack. All of these small synergies sort of came together throughout trying to make jank work. I think this deck is the best needle sealing deck in the format, probably the best magic planter deck in the format, and I love that it's a deck of small fires. You're constantly lighting a small fire in different places on the field, and if your opponent ignores one of those fires for too long, yeah, that fire is gonna burn down the whole forest. You're gonna make a whole species of buzzards go extinct, and nobody wants that. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.